Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest is Karen Dillon from Profit Keeper Pro. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my new software.
Yeah. Well, and you and I have worked together with several companies through our careers.
That's right. Yes, we have.
Well, tell me. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the career path that led you to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I got in the car business many years ago in 1985, selling credit insurance and extended service contracts and doing F&I training. In probably 92, I was introduced to a gentleman that had written a leasing software product. And at the time, auto leasing was just starting to boom because like every bank, every manufacturer, GCal, everybody was doing auto leasing. So we formed a partnership and started marketing the product called LeaseLink. We grew that to over 4,000 customers and sold it to DealerTrack in late 2004. I then, probably in early 2006, started TimeHighway.com, which was online service appointment scheduling. So that was really my first real exposure to service. And fortunately, I had some really, really great service managers and fixed ops directors that helped educate me. So we were able to take that software and enhance it. So not only did it offer scheduling, but it offered service drive management and shop loading. I ended up selling that to CIP Capital in August of 2016, at which time they also bought Dealer Product Services, One Command, and Peak Performance. And they took all four companies and formed Affinitive, which is in operation today. I stayed on for about 3.5 years to run Time Highway. But then after I left, happened to be talking to a fixed ops director that I had become good friends with. And we started talking about service and some of the problems in service. And we've developed this Profit Keeper Pro.
Cool. Well, let's talk about that. Do dealerships have like a clear view in real time into their ROs and the problems that could be occurring?
Well, monitoring service ROs and parts invoices is very time consuming. And truly, because of all the crises that arise in service every day, whether it's the customer problem, whether it's the advisor didn't show up, so maybe the service manager is having to write service, just all the many things that happen, most service managers do not have the time to deal with it.
Karen, how prevalent are mistakes on ROs? I mean, is that something that's happening like once a day, multiple times a day, 100 times a day, or?
Many times a day.
Many times a day?
Because there are just so many things that, again, service is very complicated. And, a recent Cox Automotive Staffing survey found that employee dealership turnover is about 40%. So turnover means, poorly trained in general.
Yeah.
It's just hard to manage your shop, train new people. So that's one big thing. I think the other is it was a Gallup poll that found that about 65% of employees are disengaged. And that just means those people are not paying attention. They're just showing up and not really taking care of the job. And that's a real crisis for the dealership.
Really? So disengaged, I mean, does that mean that they're looking at their phone? Does it mean that they just don't give a darn or they're, just not interested in the job? Like they just, what does that really mean?
I think it could be a lot of things. I think part of it is, they don't look at it as, I really care about the dealership, which is unfortunate because it really affects them when they don't care about the dealership. But they're more likely to, give away freebies or misuse discounts, not document processes, which is really catastrophic for the dealership.
So you're able to help the service manager see when that's taking place?
That is correct.
What does that look like? I mean, does it something that he or she would look at all day long? Do they look at it once a day? Like how much time do they need to put in to be able to try to combat that?
Well, with our software, basically, first thing in the morning, they look at a dashboard. And basically, it will tell them of any compromises in parts pricing, labor, both customer pay, warranty, internal. I can see my part sales, both counter and wholesale. I can see what was priced under invoice or what was priced at invoice. I can also see sales by customer. So I can look at my wholesale customer and I can pull a list and see how much each of my wholesale customers have purchased for that period of time. I can maybe look at yesterday. I can look at the week to date. I can look at month to date. I can look at last month. So that allows me to very quickly take a look and see what customers are coming in for wholesale or counter. But I also can see the parts that have been returned by those wholesale customers. So it allows me just to have, in seconds, a look to see, well, this body shop, took $8,000 worth of parts so far this month, but they brought $6,000 back. Wow. And that really creates a real restocking issue.
I mean, is that something where the service manager would have a conversation with that body shop and say, "Hey guys, we need to dial this in a little bit"?
Absolutely,
absolutely. And I guess other than maybe somebody belly aching about having to restock the parts, he would have not had any clue.
That is correct.
That was the problem.
That is correct.
Well, Karen, we've talked about how it's very difficult to find good people at a dealership. We've talked about 40% turnover in a dealership, and we've talked about service managers that are too busy to properly train their people.
Right.
Do you have any advice for dealers that are trying to overcome these issues?
I think as I look at it, if a service manager looks at this report, finds the issues. Okay, John needs training. James is using the wrong labor type. And does the necessary training, corrects the issues, maintains a better run shop, he's going to go a lot further in maintaining his employees.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, if they're entering their ROs better, they're going to make more money.
Exactly.
And if they're entering their ROs properly, they're going to have less issues, less headaches, less fires to put out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody likes playing for a winning team.
That's right.
Now, you talked about some of the different things you're able to see. Could you look at it by employee too, so you would maybe know like this person is maybe benchmark them and try to.
So basically, when I pull up my dashboard, let's just say I'm looking at customer pay labor, any compromises. So I can see a list. I can see the list by associate, by advisor. And if I'm looking at this particular RO, I can click and drill down to that actual RO and see every line on that RO. So in seconds, I have all the detail about what that compromise was. In addition, I can look at my labor margin on all of those compromised ROs. And if I'm okay with an 80% labor margin, even though they did give something away, I don't even have to drill into that. But those that are below 80%, I can look at and counsel with the advisor. Same thing with parts margin.
It seems like that would really help you with knowing who to train and what to train them on, right?
Exactly.
You would see where they're deficient.
Exactly.
Interesting. Well, we talked about some of the problems that this will help the service manager to address. And I guess my question is, it seems like if those problems were always there, what took so long? Like, why didn't anybody think of this before? And why aren't dealers doing this?
Well, there are some software companies out there that will provide kind of a smidgen of the information we provide. I haven't seen any, not to say that there aren't any, but I haven't seen any that provides the detail and the ability in seconds to drill down to see the detail. If I want to see all my one-line ROs, I can look at those and see the year, make, model, and mileage of the car. So if there's an 89,000 mile car that had a one-line RO, I want to look at that. and find out, did we not do an inspection? Did we not recommend additional services, or et cetera?
Yeah. Interesting. So what's the magnitude of the problem? I mean, in a dealership, how much profit are they actually losing in the labor, in the parts, in the taxes? Like what is the magnitude of that problem?
Well, a recent NADA workforce study found that an average size dealership loses over $600,000 a year in lost gross profit from fixed ops.
Wow, that is way larger number than what I thought you were going to say. I mean, an entire digit extra than what I thought you were going to say.
It's amazing.
So let's say that I'm a car dealer. I just found out that I'm probably losing $600,000 a year in profit, and my service manager has all the symptoms that you mentioned. My service manager is too busy, doesn't have time to train. I have advisors that turn over at 40% or greater.
Right.
And so I definitely have all these problems, and I want to solve them. Like, how long does it take for me to implement a program like this?
I would say probably about 3 weeks for us to install the software. Yes.
Wow. And what's like the kind of the learning curve? I mean, is this something that every service manager, when they look in there, that they know
immediately, because all I have to do, I'm looking at my dashboard and I see repair gross lost, right? I click and it breaks it down in customer pay, parts and labor, warranty parts and labor, internal parts and labor. I want to see my customer pay labor compromises. I click on that number. I see the list of ROs. I click on the RO and I can see all the detail.
Wow.
So and it's the dashboard is laid out so it is so simple to click and get to the answer immediately in seconds. If I want to see my sales tax discrepancies, and that's a huge thing too. Dealers are audited all the time for sales tax. And it's amazing how many mistakes, especially in parts, where sales tax should have been collected and wasn't, or the wrong tax exemption number was entered. So, it also alerts them of that. As far as open ROs, I can see all my open ROs. I can break those down by advisor, by customer pay, warranty, and internal. And I can look to see how many hours on my customer pay ROs I've paid by technicians on ROs I haven't collected any money for.
Oh, wow.
So I have that list. Let's say John's my service advisor. Here's 8 ROs that he has open. What's the deal with these? Are we waiting for parts, or are they just sitting there and you haven't collected from the customer?
Wow. So really, all the problems that become apparent to the service manager are problems they know how to solve. They maybe just didn't have the clear view to identify them in a timely manner. Am I following you right?
I think that's absolutely correct.
That's really exciting.
It is exciting.
Karen, is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience today before we say goodbye?
I think the only thing, as I talk to service managers about the program, so many of them have years in the business. And let's say have been using let's say CDK for years. And so I hear, well, I can pull all that information out of CDK. And I'm going, yeah, you probably can. So I said, let's do this. Let's pull all the reports out of CDK that would be necessary to create the information that we're providing on the dashboard that they can access in seconds. And this is in very small print, but you can see there's 2 pages of reports that have to be pulled and exported to Excel. And then the detail has to be searched for.
Well, it's kind of back to the point you made earlier, is that you have a service manager who some days has to write service because he's got people that didn't show up, needs to train people but doesn't have the time, and now they're going to have the time to pull dozens of reports and put them into a spreadsheet.
No, they don't.
It's kind of funny. It's a kind of a common theme that we talk about on the show is that technology. The idea was it was going to make things easier, but so many managers in the car dealership today are overwhelmed. They have so much technology that they don't have time to actually do their jobs, like the training or the keeping of the good people. because all they're doing is pulling reports.
And putting out fires.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for coming, Karen. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yes. And thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest has been Karen Dillon from Profit Keeper Pro. We hope to see you again soon. This episode is Over the Curb and Burning Gas.